Greenland has issued a strong warning to a US oil company connected to Donald Trump not to drill on its territory after the company brought material for drilling ashore in the Arctic island. Greenland Energy, a Texas company founded last year, has announced plans to spend $60 million drilling two exploratory wells. The company says it is acquiring the exploration rights previously granted to a UK company called 80 Mile. Greenland stopped issuing new oil licenses in 2021 for environmental reasons, and the autonomous Danish territory has warned that all future logistical matters must be advised and approved by its Mineral Resources Authority. Greenland has been a recurring object of Donald Trump's overtures, with the US president saying he would acquire the territory for Washington one way or another. And for more on this, I can welcome Lucas Vaden, who is a PhD candidate at Sciences Po and an associate fellow with the Russia programme at George Washington University. Good morning, Lucas, and thank you for joining us. Can I start by asking you, how serious is this attempt by Greenland Energy to drill? Will they openly break the law, or are they just testing the waters?
Good morning, Oliver. Thank you very much for having me. The first thing I would like to mention, perhaps, is that as you guys already alluded to, the exploration license that is held by Greenland Energy has existed for quite a long time. It's been granted before the Greenlandic government instituted a blanket moratorium on the issuing of new oil and gas licenses in 2021. From a legal point of view, therefore, the exploration for oil by Greenland Energy is relatively unproblematic. The issue that caused political controversy last week is that the US company Greenland Energy didn't coordinate with the relevant Greenlandic authorities in its disembarking of equipment for the exploration that is planned in East Greenland, and of course in the current wider political situation around American-Danish Greenlandic relations. The working group that has been instituted between the three capitals, Nuuk, Washington, and Copenhagen, to try and hash out some form of future agreement about Greenlandic-American relations. Within that sensitive context, of course, doing so stepped on a number of toes and created a political scandal both on the local level in Eastern Greenland and in Nuuk, and at this point also in capitals far beyond.
So it seems to be a matter of procedure and, I suppose, diplomatic etiquette here. But is there any particular likelihood of an out-and-out conflict, as in a diplomatic conflict occurring from this?
From my point of view, that's exactly the tightrope that the Greenlandic authorities now must walk. The question is whether this procedural issue around the behavior of a private American company is going to be raised as an issue first within the negotiation group, about which we know relatively little, involving the Danish, Greenlandic, and American authorities, and most importantly, of course, whether this issue will eventually reach the ear of the US president. If so, a negative reaction on the part of the president to these news and his potential siding with Greenland Energy may, of course, disrupt this very sensitive and very important diplomatic process, and undermine some of the gains that the Greenlandic authorities in particular have been making in trying to stabilize their relations with the United States over the last couple of months.
Now, Greenland Energy is connected to Donald Trump, but how close is the connection? And is this attempt to drill an autonomous operation, or is it directed by Washington?
There are alleged links between the leadership of Greenland Energy and the Trump administration. Those are personal. It is said that the CEO of Greenland Energy enjoys relatively privileged access to Donald Trump's wider circle. Beyond that, however, it's very important to highlight that this remains a private company that operates according to commercial motives primarily, and not a state-directed entity in the classic sense.
Now, Donald Trump has had a particular obsession with Greenland, which goes back to his first term in office. Why is this particular focus on Greenland by Trump, given that the United States already has generous access to the territory for security and other reasons?
I would say that the type of resource deposits that we are talking about in the context of the Greenland energy kerfuffle do play a significant role. So do other types of natural resources, such as rare earths that are abundantly available, allegedly, reportedly, in Greenland. The security element is something that the American president has highlighted quite often in the last couple of years. Planners, both in the United States and in other NATO countries, have become increasingly aware of and concerned with Chinese and particularly Russian activities in the wider Arctic region. The Arctic generally has emerged as a part of the planet that has become a lot more interesting for not only economic reasons, but also for security planners due to the melting ice cap and the opening of new shipping lanes and the general increase of human activity in the region. Within this wider context, Donald Trump in particular has developed a fascination with the Arctic, has been nudging the United States to build more icebreakers, become more active in the region. And I think his obsession with Greenland kind of neatly fits into that on the one hand. On the other hand, Mr. Trump has also admitted to being interested in a potential expansion of the US's national territory as a means to cement his political legacy. And I do believe that the potential or desired acquisition of Greenland from his point of view will always at least have something to do with this idea of making the United States larger, of acquiring a piece of land for the United States in his name to cement his political legacy.
Now, at Davos back in January, Donald Trump all of a sudden dampened his own rhetoric on acquiring Greenland. He did it in the matter of just a few hours after speaking to NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. It was never really explained why he did this, but almost as soon as the United States football team were eliminated from the World Cup last month, Trump was once again talking about Greenland. That may have been purely coincidental, but are there external factors in all this talk by the US president?
Very possible, but I think what these episodes really do showcase is the degree to which US diplomacy, not only on the Greenland issue, but also a broad variety of other topics, has become to a very significant degree about the current mood, personality, perhaps varying preferences and perspectives of the president himself. At this point, so much of the US foreign policy apparatus moves at the whim of a single individual. And obviously that individual's perspective on things, that individual's mood may be swayed by a huge number of factors. And it, unfortunately, even for us experts, the small community of people who follow these, especially the Greenland issue closely, there's a lot of reading the tea leaves involved and trying to guess why Mr. Trump, in particular, why President Trump may be reacting to certain things more harshly than he does to others, and why, on the flip side, he would roll back threats or temper some of his statements in reaction to other processes or efforts by especially the Europeans, but also the Greenlandic government or the Danes.
Thank you very much for that. Lucas Vaden, a PhD candidate at Sciences Po and an associate fellow with the Russia program at George Washington University.